Hi, seventh graders. Thought I'd take an opportunity here to walk you through the notes from today. There we go. All right, so if you have your handout in front of you, here you go. You might want to pause it here and just copy all the information off the screen. So click the pause button, copy this, and then resume playing. All right, after you've done that, each of these represents an allele. So each of these colored ovals is an allele or a form of the gene. It's not supposed to represent an actual P. Okay, so we have, for simple traits, we get 2 copies of each gene, one from each parent. So in Mendel's parent generation, he took a purebred homozygous yellow pea bearing plant and crossed it with a purebred homozygous green pea bearing plant. And the only possibility for that cross is one parent passes the yellow form of the gene and one parent passes the green form of the gene. And that's shown here as a heterozygous pairing. So hetero means different. So this individual offspring would have one dominant form of the gene, so one dominant allele, and one recessive form of the gene, and that's a recessive allele. So in the F1 generation, every single offspring would be heterozygous. Because, just to recap here, so we get a dominant form of the gene from that parent on the left and a recessive form of the gene from the parent on the right. And there's no other possibility. All right, and don't forget to pause while you copy this stuff down or if you need to repeat it. Okay then, so Mendel let the F1 pea plant self-pollinate. We're gonna cross, we'll symbolize that, we'll imagine there's 2. So we'll cross this individual with this individual. So what will happen when 2 heterozygous individuals cross, or if an F1 heterozygous individual self-pollinates? Okay, so what are the possibilities of the offspring? I'm going to put a bunch of arrows in here. And this is showing that this individual could 50% of the time could pass the yellow form of the gene, and 50% of the time it could pass the green form of the gene. Same with this one. So it could pass yellow, which would result in a homozygous dominant individual. I'll just click them all in here. It could pass green, which would result in a heterozygous individual. It could pass yellow. This is a heterozygous individual, or it could also pass green. This is Mendel's findings in the F2 generation. If you remember that 25% of the time, the green recessive trait reappeared. And here's how that works. So parents could produce an offspring that is homozygous dominant yellow. So 2 dominant forms of the gene. They could produce a heterozygous individual. This one would also appear yellow because the dominant allele is present. This could result as well, which is also heterozygous. And this plant would make yellow peas as well because the dominant allele is present. Or that each parent could pass a recessive allele. And this individual pea plant would have green peas. So that's 1 out of 4 possibilities, or 25%. And that's kind of explains what Mendel found there. All right, so I'm going to put some letters in here, and this is the genotype. So just pause to catch up here or copy these letters on your template. So there you see 2 capital Y's. Dominant trait, use the first letter from the dominant trait. In this case, yellow. So you get capital Y, capital Y. That is called homozygous dominant. This individual gets the letter Y as well. It's recessive, so it's the lowercase y, lowercase y. See it flashing in there. That's called homozygous recessive. The F1 individuals get a capital Y and a lowercase y, and that's called heterozygous, one of each. Why do they have one of each? Because there's one dominant allele and one recessive allele. Dominant allele is the capital Y, recessive allele is the lowercase y. And then once you pause and guess on the bottom four before I tell you. Okay, the bottoms would be homozygous dominant, heterozygous, heterozygous, and homozygous recessive. If you reverse the letters here, that's okay. But in genetics, you're always going to write the dominant allele first, just to be consistent. All right, so that's a lot there, a lot of vocab and a lot of underlying thinking. But if you pause it or replay it or come ask me some questions, we're going to apply these same ideas to simple traits in people, which of course gets more exciting. All right, on the next page here, you can copy the vocab. This is part's all on Schoology, so I don't need to go through it here. But you'll copy down the vocab on your template. And then there's some practice problems where you're going to find the phenotype and the genotype for some different traits in sponges. We'll go through the Punnett square together, or you could try this as well. Okay, that's the note template, and that is the background to Gregor Mendel's work. All right, have a good day. Watch a couple of times if you need to, and we'll move forward from here.